So I want to share this quote, and this is probably one of the most important segments of our gathering together today. If I were to say, like, what is the highlight, or for a trader who's trying to make the biggest difference in their account or with their wealth, what part or segment is the most influential? And I would say it's this segment right here, where we dive into the psyche around your financial situation. And I'm going to speak to this quote that Albert Einstein said a long time ago that I think is worth considering, kind of us jumping into this next segment. And here's what Albert Einstein said. He said, "We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them." And so I want you to think about your problems. I want you to think about like your financial problems, whether that's debt, whether that's a goal around a certain number or zeros that you would like to have in your bank account, whether that has to do with your freedom and the level of freedom or access to freedom you have because of your financial situation, whether that has something to do with your stripes, meaning like the level of income or that bracket of income that you grew up in and trying to break out of it into some new level and to change your stripes for you and your family. It just really doesn't matter. In order to solve this problem, Albert is suggesting Einstein, the genius who, in a way, catapulted the math to create some of our nuclear technology and some of the mathematical formulas that launched some of the greatest innovation that we ever had, and even had us win a war, that we have to attack these problems from a different level of thinking. So I want to have you consider that the reason your financial problems haven't changed is because the attack method you've been using to fix them is in the same realm. It's in the same vein of thinking. What does that mean, Matt? What in the world are you talking about? And if someone had like said this to me 10 years ago, I'm even trying to imagine the framing that I would put it in, because my understanding of this has just grown so much over the last decade. But I'm going to try to attack this. I'm going to try to point to something, because I'm not going to be able to say it like it's the truth. I'm just going to be able to point to something that would have you see a way of getting access to this realm to be able to solve your problems differently. And I'm going to compare this to your attitude or your approach of doing to solve versus being to solve. So what is the difference, Matt, between attacking things from a place of doing versus attacking things from a place of being? Well, in our realm, in our normal realm of solving problems, we think that in order to get, I have to do something different. Yes? I mean, doesn't that make sense? In order to have more money, Matt, I would have to do something differently. And I'm going to say that is exactly what Einstein is talking about. We are trying to solve the problem from the same level of thinking that created it. It was doing that created this financial problem, and it's doing that is going to keep you stuck there. So we have to rise, you could say elevate, to a different level of thinking that would have us solve this problem, and I'm going to call it being. Now, being is very different than doing. Being is who you are being in any and every given situation. And there's something really fascinating that I'm going to point to that has us living into futures. Your being, who you are being, is a reflection of a future that you think is possible. Futures are where everything exists. And if you think that a certain future is possible, you will live into that future. And who you will be, who you will act as, will be consistent with that future that you bring towards yourself. It's like, Matt, what in the world are you talking about? I can just imagine you guys sweating over there listening to this. Let me see if I can give you an example. Let's say who I'm being to solve my financial problem is stressed out, is nervous, anxious, is feeling constrained, maybe afraid. Maybe you're acting out of a place of what I would call force. And what if, it's kind of a chicken or the egg issue, isn't it? What if, in order to get the results that you wanted, who you had to be first then drove the same doing, but from a higher perspective and a faster way of flow? So then I'll just give you some alternate words. What if, rather than being afraid around your financial situation, afraid when you trade, afraid when you show up in the market, you were brave? What if when you were, let's say, avoidant, might be another way of being around your finances, the bills come in, you're avoidant, doing your, like, how many of you guys have a budget? Oh no, I've definitely been avoidant around that. Rather than being avoidant, you were confident, or there was some tenacity in your way of being. There was some exhilaration, some excitement, some level of power that was much higher than avoidant. And in the same activity, just who you're being is radically different. I want you to consider two people doing the same thing, two people going after the same goal. One is confident, one is afraid. Who do you think is going to get, I think both would eventually get the result, but who do you think is going to get the result faster? Who do you think is going to have positive influence on others to attract the thing they want? Who do you think is going to be inspiring that would have others go, I want what he's pointing to, and I'm going to join up and we're going to do this together? Who do you think it ultimately is going to win that race? The fearful one or the confident one? And I think what I'm pointing to is the direct access to having you get what you want faster and with more velocity. And if we were to sum up everything that I've just said, I would call the word power. Not power like a dictator, but power, as I define, as the velocity at which you attract the things that you want. And the more power you have, the faster you move up in this higher level of thinking, like Albert talks about. The more power you have, the problem that's at this level, you've raised your power to this level, and now you can solve this because you're not thinking from the same plane because your power has shifted. And so I would love to redefine this quote someday, and I'll probably do that. But I would say power is the access to solving problems at a lower level where force existed. And this is the power versus force dynamic. I want to share this with you really quick also because many of you are going, wow, I think I'm getting a sense of this, Matt, but what in the world are you talking about? And this is why I wrote a book. This is why I actually have this out, and I'm just ecstatic to share it with you guys. My book that I've been working on for over 2 years is finally coming out, and it's coming out next month. And so you can actually pre-order it right now. It's called Finding Your Hidden Strengths, and it's all about this. It's all about getting access to what I would call the quantum realm, where we're not focused on doing anymore. This is not a habits book. This is not like the 7 top things you should do to have success. This is about shifting your being because there are so many books and literature on doing out there. We already have these points, but why don't we do them? Why do we, when we know how to diet, we don't do the diet? Why, when we know the steps to success, like, for example, I'll give you a really easy one that a lot of you know, you just put your money in the S&P 500 every single month, and if you do that over a certain period of time, you will outperform 80% of top money managers in the country. Like, this is just data. We know this. We can do this. But why don't we? It has something to do with our being. And I want to help you get access to shifting who you're being so that you have the confidence to trust the things that you know actually work, rather than being avoidant, rather than being kind of this backseat driver, rather than not taking the steering wheel and being the author of your life. And so I've got this QR code. This will get you direct access to my hard cover on Amazon. Pre-orders are happening right now. I just got off actually with my publisher, and the quantities for this first batch of hardcovers are significantly limited. They are likely, and they're telling me we are likely going to run out before the launch for the hardcover goes out. And so if you want your copy, get it today. First come, first serve is what happens on this. Hopefully you get within the first batch order so that you guys have it delivered to you. But I talk about this and many other distinctions about how you can get access to your power and really elevate your level of solving problems from a completely different realm. And this is exactly what we're talking about.